Kia ora and welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, an author and the founder of the Jane Austen Society of Aotearoa, New Zealand. My co-host is Rachel Pilious.
Hello.
Today we're discussing Chapter 1 of Emma. In Chapter 1, we're introduced to practically perfect Emma Woodhouse and her ailing father on the evening after her best friend / governess / mother figure's wedding. She's sad but tries to hide it for her father's sake, and then Mr. Knightley appears to verbally spar with Emma and tell her not to meddle, which, to be fair, is a pretty accurate theme throughout the novel.
A very necessary thing for him to be worried about, to be honest.
I don't understand why the opening line isn't as famous as the one from Pride and Prejudice.
It tells you so much about her in the most simplest of sentences. I guess compared to Pride and Prejudice, which could be used in so many contexts, it's very timeless. The opening line of Emma is all about her. It tells you almost everything you need to know to start.
Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, which again, you could say those things about Cher and Clueless. I mean, you might not say handsome, you might say pretty, smart, and rich, but yeah. With a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. And that's one sentence and also the entire first paragraph.
Short, sweet, and just honestly, really makes me kind of jealous of Emma. To go 21 years with very little to distress or vex her, so far, pretty charmed existence.
I had never thought before about the fact that it's the very little to distress or vex her, and then we just move on to the next thing, a little bit like foreshadowing.
Exactly. Jane Austen was just like, she's had 21 really good years. Now hold my tea.
Gonna fuck some shit up.
Yeah, let's get into this. Look, you got a good time. Now we're gonna go in for it. And
she has like this blessed life, and I kind of feel like Jane Austen was quite amused at the fact she was gonna mess it up. In Northanger Abbey, when Jane Austen introduces Catherine Morland, it's really different. She spends the entire time going, Catherine's kind of basic.
Yeah.
I'm really disappointed in her as a heroine.
The introduction of Catherine, I think, is relatively scathing compared to how not just the majority of heroines in general, but the majority of Jane Austen's heroines are introduced being handsome, clever and rich, or how Lizzie Bennet's introduced as the smartest amongst her siblings. You know, it's like the most, not the most reasonable. It's probably Jane. But yeah, Catherine gets a bad rap purely just because of how the author's chosen to describe her to the reader.
It's such a swing to go from I'm subverting the tropes to have a heroine who's not really a heroine, to then have Emma Woodhouse who's like, look at this perfect heroine. But then I guess as the novel goes on, you're like, oh, she's kind of a mess.
Yeah. That's one thing that Jane Austen does so well, is kind of show you that what you're seeing on the surface isn't actually what's always happening. The mask that a lot of people that you read a lot of stories about this time in society, where it's like everyone is all about reputation. They're masking, trying to show the best side, which we still do all the time nowadays. My family, we have something we call the Pilious panic, where before anybody comes over, we have to tidy the entire house and make sure it's clean. So whenever someone comes over, it's like, wow, your house is so lovely and nice. It's work, it's effort, and we do it so that you don't see the mess of daily life.
I hate to break it to you, that is not unique to your family.
No, it's not. We just have a term for it that fits.
Pilious panic. I love it.
But I feel like it's the way that Austen writes is that all of these characters are constantly doing the panic of trying to look perfect to outsiders. But actually then you get into the nitty-gritty of it, and it's like there's so much wrong with the flaws that she shows afterwards.
So much of society was about looking the right way, saying the right things, etc., that you didn't necessarily know people. Like, people would get married on really brief acquaintance. You've only seen each other in public places.
Only chaperoned. You've never... So if I'm in a public place, you have a sense of decorum where you're like, well, I can't be my craziest self in this place like Sadly. I would be at home, because you don't want to disturb the peace, as a way. But... Also,
okay, pause. What would you do to disturb the peace? Please tell me.
Well, let's just say when it's me at home with my friends and my flatmates, Just part of it is just really random noises. We'll just, someone will say something, raucous laughter. But I just feel like we would get far too loud and we would get just glares from everybody if we didn't tone it down outside of the house. Honestly, our neighbours probably hate us. We're in a semi-detached house and I'm just like, you share a wall with us and I'm so sorry. I forgot what I was saying.
About behaving appropriately in public. But also being chaperoned, even chaperoned from a distance, you'll act so much differently. Like, knowing that you're being watched, there's no way to make you act more different from yourself, I think. It's like when you're at work, and I really hope my manager doesn't listen to this, but it's like, I'll be just hanging out, maybe I'm not more talking than anything than actually working. And then my manager will come out of the back and we're going to look busy or whatever. As soon as you know someone's watching you or that there could be some kind of repercussion for whatever action you're doing, you just immediately change to do what you should be. And I feel like it's the same if you're being chaperoned on a date by a member of your family or a maid or whatever. It's like not being alone with this person who you're going to marry. There's no way to know what they would truly be like when it's just the two of you in a room. We are different people when we're around different people, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So some of my social groups were going to mesh for a thing. When I say social groups, I mostly actually see people one-on-one because I cannot cope with groups. So two people were going to be together and me being like, I don't know how to handle this. I'm still me with each of them, but which me, how much me, and how do I make sure everybody is happy? And it's a whole thing.
Back to Emma Woodhouse.
Back to Emma Woodhouse. As she would say, she's obviously the most important.
The second paragraph in Emma talks about how her father's indulgent. She's got an older sister. Her mother had died too long ago for her to have more than an indistinct remembrance of her caress, and her place had been supplied by an excellent woman as governess, who had fallen little short of a mother in affection. And it tells you so much about her upbringing, just in that spot, that she didn't know her mother, and really think about how has that affected her as a person. Miss Taylor's just being there as a substitute.
The thing that her mother figure is someone that is hired to be her mother figure has to make it different. They're still kind of your employee, so Emma's still kind of in charge.
Yeah. Even if you're, say you're babysitting, for a modern reference, you're babysitting with someone, and it's like you're in charge of this child, but at the end of the day, if that child complains about you to their parent, then you're the one who's getting the axe from the job. Miss Taylor, while Emma describes her being more of a mother figure and a friend than a governess, at the end of the day, she was still in the employ. I was thinking about this before when rereading chapter 1. She has an older sister, but Emma is often described as the lady of the house, even
because her sister left.
Well, her sister left. Yeah. Well, I don't remember it being said whether her sister kind of had that role before her marriage, or whether Emma's just kind of always taken on that role of, well, I have no mother, so someone's got to look after my father, and her sister is very similar to her father in many ways, and so maybe Emma had to take on that role.
You'd assume, at least nominally, that Isabella was the mistress of the house, and then when she married, Emma officially took over. When their mother died, they were young. Miss Taylor comes when Emma is 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then Isabella leaves when Emma's 12 or 13. So when Miss Taylor turns up, Isabella's only 11 or 12, but she would have pretty much been the lady of the house because she is the oldest daughter. But I imagine Emma probably would have been running it from under her the entire time, even though she was 4 or 5, because it's Emma.
It's Emma, yeah, exactly. I feel like even as a young age, she would have been bossy and controlling in the best of ways of no, we should do it like this. And
this is the sort of thing that they talk about now as parentifying.
Yes. Especially with older siblings normally, getting them to look after the younger siblings. And I've been reading the Bridgerton books recently. I love a romance. But one of the things that happens in that series is their father dies. There's 8 of these siblings, and so it's Anthony, the oldest son, who's 18, his youngest sister isn't even born at the time of that death. And so it's he just becomes the father. Thinking of that in a Regency perspective, you're the man or mistress of the house, there's so much more responsibility that you have, especially if you're in a rich family, depending on where you've got your money, if you've got lands to look after or tenants, or you're the one also taking on the responsibility for people outside of your family too in that respect.
And I think in Emma's position, there was almost a vacuum that she kind of had to step into because, as you're saying, Isabella is really like her father.
Yeah.
And they're both, in the nicest way, weak characters. Miss Taylor, no, she's too nice too. Like, you need someone with a backbone who knows how to get things done, and that's Emma.
And that's Emma.
And maybe if they hadn't been like that, she wouldn't be like that, but because somebody needed to be.
Yeah, she just kind of filled the role that needed to be filled and kind of shaped herself around that.
So we can assume that Miss Taylor is in her 30s. And it's very unexpected for a woman of her age to marry, let alone for the first time. So she is super lucky that this guy has gone, oh no, I want to marry her, and waited to have enough money to marry her.
And Mr. Weston is described, he's a very lovely kind of guy, and it's implied they'll be very happy together. Don't know if we know his age, but he's been married before.
And he has a son who's like Emma's age.
Yeah. What's this age gap as well, which isn't as much of an issue in this time frame as well.
No.
I mean, between Emma and Knightley, there's 16, 17 years.
A bit uncomfortable for us now.
Yeah.
Particularly because she's 20. If she were 25, 30, her dating someone 16 years older than her would be a bit better.
Yeah.
It's the times. Men were marriageable when they were independent. And women were marriageable when they were in their late teens, early 20s. And the women's bit didn't change, but the men that could shift from their 21 and get their money to their 30 and their father dies, or their 50 and their father dies, sort of thing. When you got money to support a family, then you can get married, and there is only one pool of young women.
Young women. Say your father dies and you're in your 40s or whatever. Say you're 45. Any other woman who is in a similar age range to you is considered a spinster by society. She's not going out to events. She's not tending to circulate with society in the same way that girls and women of the late teens, early 20s would be. And so you're still expected to probably marry one of those girls who's so much younger, purely just because that's the marriageable age. But by the time you're hitting 25, you're going into spinster territory.
Although no one refers to Charlotte Lucas or Anne Elliot as spinsters.
No.
But people do tend to think like that. Marianne Dashwood.
Yeah.
Going on about, 27-year-olds. Oh, I mean, they might marry an old man and look after him, but no one will ever love them.
Someone currently 27, God, that hit.
One of the main jobs of a married woman is to provide an heir.
Yeah.
That's actually makes me feel quite sick to think about. You're not marrying a woman, you're marrying a uterus.
She's young, so she's good for bearing kids, and you're like, you don't want anyone too skinny or too, because it's like they don't know if, they won't be able to do it. And it's just like, it's almost like women were just being farmed. It's like they're like cattle, purely to give men sons. That's the job. Emma actually has a fair amount of independence for a woman of her age and her time, especially because of her status as being rich and the way her father dotes on her, that it's like, she's afforded a lot more independence than many women of the time would have, where they don't gain independence until they're married, if they marry a nice guy. There's no guarantee they're getting married. Once you become a married woman, you're able to go out and visit people when you want to, do more, again, if your husband allows you to, which is frustrating to think about as a concept.
As modern independent people assigned female at birth, it's very different, isn't it? And it's quite uncomfortable to think about the narrowness of people's lives, and that Emma has this huge personality and huge intelligence, and she's trapped in this very narrow life, but somehow she's actually still happy and making it work for her. I feel like a lot of people would be super depressed. I have to look after my dad constantly.
Part of the reason that Emma isn't actively looking for marriage is because she's like, but if I left and got married, who's going to look after my father?
Yeah.
And it's like that level of responsibility where she's afforded a lot of independence, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to her and her familial obligations.
This chapter talks about the real evils of Emma's situation, of her having too much power and too much her own way. This threatens her enjoyments, but she's completely unaware of it at this point. And again, I'm like, oh, what is Jane Austen saying is going to come? Like the very first paragraph, it's kind of pointing to that it's Emma's character, that's the thing that's going to cause the danger, or what I think Austen is pointing to. I mean, to be fair, we have read the book and we do know.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry for spoilers.
Miss Taylor has just got married. This is supposed to be a wonderful, happy thing. But Emma's actually sitting at home. It's her first trial. It's the first grief, because she's probably too young to remember
her mother.
She sounds kind of depressed. There's a line about any continuance, and it's like, oh God, is that a suicide thing? Holy crap. But imagine like your entire life stretching ahead of you. Really boring evenings with your dad where he naps or you read him stories and tend to him.
There is a line somewhere in here where after, Miss Taylor's left, and it's like there's no one else to talk to. It sounds so lonely, this existence of just her and her father. Her sister's not there, Miss Taylor's not there. There's no buffer as well, no one else to kind of keep her sane.
You understand the importance of Miss Taylor to keep Emma going all these years, and in a way, Emma has sacrificed for Miss Taylor so Miss Taylor can have her life. Whether she had much to actually do with getting them together, she supported it, thereby sacrificing her best friend and her mother figure to somebody else.
The first kindness that we read about Emma is she's obviously so sad for herself, but she tries to show happiness for her friend. She's actually suffering like a great loss. It might be her first loss, but it's like, to have this someone who you've had in your life for 16 years every day, constantly, to suddenly just quit cold turkey, have no like constant, like, oh, sure, they'll still be, they'll still see each other, be in each other's lives in some way, but
a Miss Taylor in the house is very different than a Mrs. Weston a mile down the road. Yeah. It is interesting that Miss Taylor stayed as long as she did, because governesses wouldn't normally stay that long, but in the lack of Emma having a female companion, and had Miss Taylor never married and Emma continued to say she did not want to marry, it's entirely possible that she would keep Miss Taylor and she would become a paid companion as opposed to a governess. I think.
It's an odd concept to pay your best friend, but but sometimes friendship's required, and that's one way to do it, I guess, especially in this time period.
Look, women kind of had to in some ways, because living alone would be really hard, and if you didn't have a family member that could come and live with you, so you need them to not have money so you can support them, so that's a reason for them to live with you, then you're gonna have to pay someone to be your friend and live with you. Which in some ways could be quite nice, in other ways not.
I guess it depends on the person, it's themselves and how they feel about it. You want companionship, but is it true companionship if the other person is monetarily obligated to be there? Are they there on their own free will? Because that's.
See, I think you could argue the same about Harriet when she comes into the picture, because she's just like, the fancy lady likes me, and she's not an intellectual equal for Emma. Right. She's more of a project than a person, or a dog, and someone to lead around. There maybe is no companion for Emma.
Throughout her life, in terms of equally minded companion, Mr. Knightley's been the one that she seeks. He comes along later in the chapter to kind of verbally spar with her, and
he's like a breath of fresh air into that quiet evening. She's like, everything is boring and dull, and I'm pinning a smile on my face for my dad. Then Mr. Knightley comes in and she's like, oh, let's go.
Yeah, someone to actually give me some sort of intelligent conversation, even for a short period of time, just liven the mood a bit. Obviously, the reader knows when they're reading it that it's like, well, obviously, this is the knight in shining armour to the heroines.
Hence the Knightley.
Yeah. For Emma herself, she's completely oblivious. For her, he's just the annoying brother-type figure who's been there forever and tells her what to do when she's the one in charge. It's like, this is my house, but he's always got something to say about her behaviour.
That's so funny because my brain immediately goes to, they're going to have some fun power plays when they marry.
Who's in charge in the bedroom?
Exactly.
A constant struggle. Flipping a coin to decide for the evening.
I'll keep things fresh. One of our members made a really good point in the annotation. Mr. Woodhouse had not married early. And then Emma will also marry an older man, and mimicking the age gap between her parents.
We don't know too much about Emma's mother. How did that age gap, how would that have affected their children's relationship? Because, with her mother being younger and her father being older, Emma's now had to grow up, and now she's looking after her father. Do we know how old her father is?
We don't. No. All we get is that he had not married early.
Like we were saying before, is that a man could marry any time from his 20s to his 50s, and what is early is probably considered marrying in your 20s, being probably average would have been in your 30s.
He could have been 30 or 40, which 40. Mean he could be anywhere 60 to 70. Yeah, they're referring to it as the evil of disparity in their ages, because not only is he an old man, he has old man habits. He constantly thinks that he's sick and he just wants to stay at home.
The hypochondriac. That's a lot to deal with.
And he doesn't like change, which is really necessary for her. He's easily depressed. I'm like, oh my God.
He always thinks he's cold.
You have all this privilege. All this privilege.
I don't know whether it would have been a normal practice at the time, but to hire a carer, someone I think trained to look after him.
Yeah, I think that you would, but Emma wouldn't like that to happen.
That's true.
She would want to look after him herself. Austen refers to it as gentle selfishness, and I'm like, is there such a thing as gentle selfishness? That sounds like an oxymoron. People could use that to describe Emma as well, her gentle selfishness. She does think a lot about herself and what's best for her, but she's not trying to be mean.
No. Emma has very conflicting intentions with her actions throughout the book. She sees herself as a matchmaker. She wants people to end up happy and in love. She wants people to form love matches. But part of the reason she does it is just because, A, it's an amusement, something to, distract her from the monotony of life. But also because she thinks that she is the only one capable of performing such an act, that she is, she's like, oh, I want them to be in love. But also, I can make anybody, I can find anybody for someone else to fall in love with. And it's about power for her in a way.
I know, right?
Yes.
I know better than you. No, I know who's right for you. Don't worry. I'll manage it. It'll be good.
Yeah.
I actually had a friend whose name was Emma that was like that.
Was the surname Woodhouse?
No, but she was named after Emma and she hated that.
Oh.
I think completely unaware that. Yeah, anyway, let's hope she doesn't listen to this.
Emma's such a common name, though, at least nowadays, that it's, you could be named after half a dozen Emmas. Emma Thompson. So Emma, I would want to be named after.
Emma Thompson is amazing.
I love her. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anything I didn't think she was brilliant in. Her being cast as Eleanor Dashwood was a fantastic choice. I just really enjoy her in Eleanor's role. I mean, I'm sure there's so many other people who could also do the role justice, but
I want to see her do more Austen, take on one of the mother roles or something.
I'd love to get her take on Mrs. Bennet.
It would be fantastic.
It would be fantastic because there's a really fantastic version of the musical Sweeney Todd, and it was performed live at the Lincoln Center in the US, and it's Emma Thompson as Mrs. Lovett, and it is phenomenal. And it starts off very much everyone kind of comes out, you've got this orchestra behind you, there's no props or anything, it's not a staged thing. I mean, there's a few hand or props, but it's not a setted stage. She walks out in this beautiful red dress and she's fantastic. And then the opening song plays and she like rips the sleeves off this dress. She rips the collar off. It's like jagged edges and stuff. And she immediately transforms into this kind of like grungy kind of character. For someone who is, I personally think of as such an elegant person, especially in so many of the roles that she's done, she does really well just from the manner that, like, her posture, that she does, that just immediately makes her this completely different person. It took me years to kind of realise that she was Professor Trelawney in the Harry Potter series, because obviously makeup and stuff can hide a thing, but it was so different from anything I'd seen from her, the more ridiculous kind of character, which is why I think she would do such a credit to Mrs. Bennet, or one of those more slightly strange people where it's like, you know, she can really get into the role of being ridiculous. And
what if she just played every character?
I would love that, to be honest.
Imagine her Lydia Bennet.
And Mary.
Yeah.
I feel like Lydia is one of the most, like, she's so annoying, but she's also very enjoyable. Like, she'd be one of the most fun people to play as an act.
So I think the Death Comes to Pemberley, the actress who plays Lydia in that, I wanted to slap her the entire time she was on the screen. She was fantastic.
You know someone's being a good actor when you are so actively angered and annoyed and you want to just kick the ever-living hell out of that character. That's when you know you've made it. And I feel like in a lot of Austen's work, you actually do have some... like, you have a lot of people who have, like even in the modern Emma adaptation, the guy who plays Mr. Elton, I don't know the actor's name, but he irked me to all hell, and I was like sitting there thinking, like, you are the worst. And his wife, the woman who plays Mrs. Elton.
Oh my god, she's terrible.
I felt I was going to break out in hives when she was on the screen. I was just
they
like,
both seem to show so much of their teeth.
Yeah.
How? Why? But
like,
yeah.
But I was like, honestly, really well done in terms of the acting, because I felt, even right now, thinking about it, I want to grit my teeth and scream. And I'm just like, that's when you know someone's done a great job.
So you can tell that Mr. Woodhouse does actually think about the people around him in his selfish way. He's talking about the coachman and Emma's like, you remember that you made sure that his daughter had a job and so he will never mind going to see the Westons because he can visit his daughter? Mr. Knightley and Emma's interactions in this chapter, do you think it could be subconscious flirting?
Oh, absolutely. You only really trade jibes with someone who you're very comfortable with. It's a sign of affection. At least I know that's how I'm affectionate with many of my friends, is just being an absolute annoyance and demon to them. And I feel like it's very similar with them. It's like, it is their way of showing that they care and that they like each other. They wouldn't do that to anybody else in society. It's foreplay for them in a way.
Yeah, I would love to see it where all of those interactions, everyone watching is like, they're flirting, right? They're flirting. And then them just being like, and walking away from each other and rolling their eyes, and everyone's like, you didn't see that? Like, what?
Yeah. What? It's always easier to see the situation from outside of it than in it.
That's very true. Mr. Knightley points out that Emma's not perfect, but her father would not be happy thinking that she's not perfect, that everybody doesn't think that she's perfect. I think that Emma perhaps is aware that people don't think she's perfect, apart from Mr. Knightley. She would rather that they did think she's perfect, but I think she might actually know.
She's enough of a realist that I think she would be aware that she's not seen as perfect. It doesn't mean that she's seen as unlikable. And yes. I think that's the difference, is Emma doesn't need people to think she's perfect. She'd prefer it. She doesn't need it, but she wants people to like her. She wants people to see her as like a good person, or at least a person they'd want to spend time with or be around.
I mean, she does really good at managing parties and stuff later on.
She has a really good skill set. She's a good hostess and a good matchmaker.
Emma's really fixated on the idea that she made this match, and Mr. Knightley's like, you are full of shit. Everyone said Mr. Weston would never marry again, and you can hear like the gossips of Highbury and hear like their thoughts about things, which is quite funny. But why do you think that Emma is really set on no, but I did this.
I think it's, for her, one of the few ways she could have something she would perceive as an accomplishment. There's the whole discussion of what makes an accomplished woman. Pride and Prejudice, they give you an entire list of what makes an accomplished woman. But they're all things of music, language, dancing, art. They're all kind of arts things, but it's not actually them actively doing something, changing someone else's life. It's all changing themselves to kind of, seem better. And I think for Emma, it's like, this is an accomplishment where she's done a good deed, or she's helped people.
She's changed their lives hugely.
Yeah. It's not something that most women would have been able to do in this time period or this time frame of having just enough power to affect something like that. So I think she really does want to be seen as the person that caused this whole thing, so that she can kind of, even just to herself, have that. When her end of the days come and she's thinking back on what she's done with her life, that can be one of the things that she kind of holds on to as I did that.
I got my governess married. That was me.
Yeah.
It was me. Emma never thinks of herself as she can do good for others. Do we agree?
I think she likes to think that that's true.
I wonder whether there's foreshadowing to Harriet and Mr. Martin and the Mr. Weston getting the umbrellas, and also Mr. Knightley saying you're more likely to have done harm to yourself than good to them by interference.
She kind of takes that as a challenge. But, I mean, he's not wrong, though. Causing harm to herself she's now a lot more lonely, a lot less. She doesn't have as many people around her to talk to. She's going through this whole grief process. And while it is nice for Mr. Weston and Miss Taylor, Mrs. Weston, I should say, they're a good match, they'll be happy. But at the end of that particular wedding day, it's like, well, who's having more intense emotions? I think grief can be such a powerful thing that maybe Emma is experiencing the worst of it.
So wanting to remind herself of the good things she's done to sort of bring herself back up.
Yeah.
And then she hands the chapter going, oh yeah, and also I'm going to set up Mr. Elton. And Mr. Knightley's like, no. A man of 6 or 7 and 20 can take care of himself. And that's really funny because her father, much older than that, can't.
When you're very young, you're a child and you can't look after yourself. But also when you're very old, you can't look after yourself. And so it's like you're in this period in the middle of your life where it's like, this is the time of being independent. Being in your 20s is kind of when that independent form of being able to look after yourself, at least in this society for a man to be able to look after himself. It's like, he's perfectly fine. It's like, he'll be okay. 50, 60 years down the road, he's definitely going to need someone's help. But for now...
I mean, we get the idea that Mr. Woodhouse doesn't actually need the help, that there's actually nothing wrong with him, though.
Yeah, that's true. That he kind of does it more out of a way to keep Emma around, give her something to do in a way, maybe.
Maybe.
He's faking it. It's all a ruse for a bit of fun. He's bored, He's bored and old and, what else is he going to do with his time?
Okay, I feel like that's a good place to end this. And that's our discussion of Chapter 1 of Emma by Jane Austen. I'm Frances Duncan. This has been Rachel Pilwar. Thank you for listening and we wish you happy reading. Woo, we did a thing. Okay.